Chapter 6: The Golem Trap and the Silent Bench. Previously, after proving his skill in a live diagnostic, Elias has been cleared of cheating but faces a restricted champion pool and a direct threat from the league's top player. Now, he must navigate these new constraints while preparing for tomorrow's match against the mechanical god. Now, Chapter 6 begins. The air in the strategy room tasted of stale coffee and ozone, a familiar cocktail for anyone who had spent more than an hour inside a professional esports facility. But today, the tension was different. It wasn't the nervous energy of a pre-match huddle. It was the suffocating weight of a public execution waiting to happen. Elias sat at the end of the long conference table, his fingers resting lightly on the edge of his keyboard. On the massive screen dominating the wall, the live draft lobby for the league's primetime showcase match was already open. Millions of viewers were watching. The chat scrolled so fast, it was a blur of neon text, a river of anticipation that felt ready to turn into a flood of vitriol. Coach Vance stood by the head of the table, his posture rigid. He looked relieved, almost giddy, as he locked in the team's composition. "We're going with the safe meta," Vance announced, his voice cutting through the hum of the servers. "Standard tank front, utility mid, no risks, we follow the script." Jax, the team captain and Elias' perennial tormentor, leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing on his lips. He didn't even look at Elias. "Finally, some sanity. Maybe we won't embarrass ourselves tonight." Elias said nothing. His eyes were fixed on his own player slot. According to Vance's orders, his champion pool for this match had been restricted to 3 specific picks: heroes with low mobility, high cooldowns, and statistically abysmal win rates against the current meta. They were trash tier. Everyone knew it. The league knew it. And now the world was about to see it. Suddenly, the main screen flickered. The draft interface froze, then shattered into a cascade of digital static. A new window forced its way to the forefront, bypassing the league's official overlay. It was a holographic feed, crisp and high definition, featuring a man sitting in a dimly lit room, his face illuminated by the glow of multiple monitors. Kale, the mechanical god, the undisputed ace of the rival faction and the highest-ranked player in the league. "Good evening, everyone," Kale said, his voice smooth, dripping with a charisma that made the chat explode with heart emojis and worshipful spam. "I noticed Coach Vance was trying to play it safe. How boring." Vance's face went pale. "Cut the feed, security." "You can't cut what's already everywhere, Coach," Kale laughed softly. With a casual wave of his hand, a document appeared on the screen next to his face. It was a leaked internal memo, stamped with the league seal. It listed Elias' name alongside a redacted section titled, "Mandatory Restriction List, the Psychological Instability Protocol." "The whole league knows Elias is on a leash," Kale continued, his eyes narrowing as they seemed to pierce through the camera, locking onto Elias personally. "Restricted from playing anything with agency. Forced to pick the dregs of the roster. It's cute, really. You're trying to protect him from himself." Kale leaned forward, the light catching the sharp angles of his jaw. "But here's my gift to you, Elias. Since you're forced to play safe, let's make sure safe means dead. I'm banning the 2 viable counters to my signature hero, Void Dancer Asterisk, from the global pool for this match. Just for you." The draft interface updated instantly. 2 slots turned gray, marked banned by special provision. "Now you have 3 choices left," Kale mocked, gesturing to the 3 useless heroes remaining in Elias' limited pool. "The Rusty Golem Asterisk, the Sleeping Sentinel Asterisk, the Blind Monk Asterisk, all slow, all clunky, all statistically doomed against Void Dancer." He smiled, a predator baring teeth. "Play safe, break easy. Pick one, Elias. Let's see how long you last before the chat demands your retirement." Jax snorted, shaking his head. "He's going to fold, look at him, he's not even blinking." Elias hadn't moved. While Jax saw humiliation and Vance saw a PR nightmare, Elias saw data. His mind wasn't processing the insult, it was parsing the hidden interaction tables of the 3 remaining heroes. public win rates were irrelevant. What mattered were the frame data anomalies, the collision box quirks, the obscure passive interactions that only manifested under specific, rarely tested conditions. His cursor hovered over the rusty golem asterisk. A level 1 brute with heavy armor, 0 mobility, and an ultimate ability that took 2 full seconds to cast. A lifetime in a game where reactions were measured in milliseconds. It was the joke of the community. Elias clicked. The selection locked in. The chat erupted. LOL rusty golem. Is he trolling? Vance made him do this, pity. Kale is going to feed on him. On the screen, Kale selected Void Dancer asterisk, the highest mobility assassin in the game, capable of blinking across the map and deleting squishy targets before they could react. A golem? Kale chuckled. How fitting. You'll be a statue before the first minion wave crashes. The game loaded. The map materialized, a sprawling arena of lanes, jungles, and turrets rendered in hyperrealistic detail. Elias spawned in the top lane, controlling the bulky, ironclad form of the rusty golem. Across from him, Kale's asterisk Void Dancer danced on the balls of his feet, a sleek, shadowy figure wreathed in purple energy. From the first second, Kale was aggressive. He darted in, landed a quick auto attack, and blinked away before Elias could even raise his weapon. Then he did it again. And again. Chip, chip, chip. The damage numbers floated up. Elias' health bar dipped steadily. In the team voice channel, Jax's voice crackled with disdain. Look at him. He's just standing there. Elias, retreat to the tower. You're feeding him free gold. He's playing like an NPC, Vance added, his tone sharp with frustration. Elias, fall back, do not engage, preserve the lane state. Elias ignored them both. He didn't type, he didn't speak. His character walked forward not to fight but to position. He stopped on a specific patch of terrain near the river entrance, a spot that looked identical to every other patch of dirt on the map. He began farming minions, taking hits from Kale without retaliating. To the millions watching, it looked like cowardice. It looked like a broken spirit accepting its fate. Retire already, asterisk the chat spammed. Fraud. Inside Elias' mind, however, a clock was ticking. He wasn't watching Kale's avatar. He was watching the mana bars, the animation frames, the subtle delay between Kale's command input and the server's registration of the movement. Kale was predictable. His arrogance dictated a pattern: harass, bait a reaction, dash in for the kill when the target flinched. Kale grew bored of the harassment. Let's finish this, he muttered, likely audible to his own stream audience. The asterisk Void Dancer revved up, purple energy coiling around him. He initiated his ultimate ability, phase shift asterisk. In a blur of motion, he vanished from his position, intending to reappear directly behind Elias inside the tower's range to secure a solo kill that would break the internet. It was a move that had ended hundreds of careers. It was unreactable for 99.9% of players. Elias didn't turn around. 10 seconds ago, based on Kale's mana expenditure and the micro-pause in his movement rhythm, Elias had calculated the exact trajectory of that dash. He knew where Kale would arrive before Kale himself had pressed the button. As the asterisk Void Dancer materialized in the empty air behind the golem, Elias pressed his ultimate key. Tectonic lock. The rusty golem slammed his fists into the ground. A circle of jagged stone spikes erupted from the earth, not where Elias was standing, but exactly where Kale had just arrived. The spell had a 2-second wind-up, usually impossible to land on a moving target. But Elias hadn't aimed at a target. He had aimed at a coordinate in time and space. Kale dashed directly into the precast zone. The moment his boots touched the glowing rune, the spike snapped shut. Crack. A golden icon flashed above Kale's head. Suppressed root. No, Kale's voice shrieked over the comms, the first crack in his godlike persona. That's impossible, the wind-up. Because Kale was rooted, his passive ability, evasion asterisk, which automatically dodged the next basic attack upon taking damage, failed to trigger. The game logic prioritized the suppression status. Elias didn't hesitate. He turned the golem around and delivered a single, sluggish basic attack. It connected squarely with the immobilized assassin. The rusty golem's hidden passive activated, damage reflection based on root duration. Since the root was absolute and the suppression prevented any escape spells, the reflection multiplier spiked to its maximum cap. Kale's health bar, which had been full a second ago, evaporated. The purple shield shattered. The Void Dancer crumpled to the ground, dead before he could even flash out. First blood. The notification blared across the screen in bold, fiery letters. For a split second, the live chat went completely silent. The scroll stopped. Then it exploded. What just happened? He predicted the dash. That wasn't luck, that was a trap. Kale got outplayed by a toy. In the strategy room, Jax's jaw hung open. Vance stared at the screen, his hands gripping the back of his chair so hard his knuckles were white. On the holographic feed, Kale's camera shook as he slammed his desk, his face twisted in disbelief and rage. You cheated, Kale hissed, though the words sounded hollow even to him. There's no way a human calculates that. Elias finally spoke, his voice calm, carrying clearly over the team comms despite the chaos. Your mana regen ticked 0.4 seconds slower than optimal after your third harass. It told me you were saving for the all-in. The rest was just geometry. The rest of the match was a formality. With their ace dead and demoralized, Kale's team collapsed under the pressure Elias exerted from the top lane. He didn't need to roam. His mere presence forced the enemy jungle to camp top, leaving the rest of the map open for his teammates. By the time the enemy nexus exploded, the odds had shifted from 90-10 against Elias to a stunning upset victory. The post-match interview zone was a sterile corridor lined with sponsor logos. The atmosphere was icy. Kale stormed out of the player booth, refusing to acknowledge the handshake line. He brushed past Elias, muttering something about server lag and luck to the nearest microphone before disappearing into the tunnel. Elias stood alone for a moment, the roar of the crowd still echoing in his ears, before Claire approached. She looked radiant, her eyes bright with a mixture of pride and concern. She held a tablet displaying the replay data. 99.8% accuracy on the prediction model, she said, showing him the heat map of Kale's movement versus Elias' cast location. Elias, that was transcendent. You didn't just win, you dismantled his entire reputation in 3 minutes. It was just data, Elias replied, wiping sweat from his forehead. He made himself predictable. Claire lowered her voice, stepping closer. Vance isn't happy. You ignored direct orders to retreat. You went off script. I won, Elias pointed out. You embarrassed the coach in front of the league commissioners, Claire corrected gently. Winning doesn't always protect you from politics. As if on cue, Coach Vance emerged from the shadows, his face a mask of cold fury. He didn't offer a congratulatory pat on the back. He didn't smile. He walked straight up to Elias and thrust a digital slate into his chest. Sign it, Vance commanded. Elias took the slate. It was a contract addendum. Mandatory psychological evaluation and compliance review. What is this? Elias asked, scanning the fine print. Your insubordination today proved that you cannot be trusted to follow tactical directives under pressure, Vance stated, his voice loud enough for the nearby production crew to hear. Effective immediately, you are placed on probationary compliance status. You will undergo a comprehensive psychological fitness review tomorrow morning at 800 hours. Elias frowned. Tomorrow morning? That's during prime practice scrims. We have a match against the league leaders in 2 days. Exactly, Vance said, a cruel smile finally breaking through his mask. The evaluation is expected to take 6 to 8 hours, possibly longer depending on your cooperation. You will miss all critical scrimmages. You will miss the strategy briefing. You will sit in a room with a doctor until I say otherwise. You're benching me, Elias realized, the cold dread settling in his stomach. For the most important match of the season. I'm protecting the team from a rogue element, Vance corrected smoothly. You proved you can play like a god, Elias, but gods don't follow orders. And in this organization, we value soldiers over gods. Sign the paper, or you're suspended for breach of contract. Claire stepped forward, her expression hardening. Coach, this is excessive. He just secured our biggest win of the year. Stay out of this, Claire, Vance snapped. He turned his gaze back to Elias, his eyes devoid of any warmth. The choice is yours. Submit to the evaluation and prove you can be controlled, or sit on the bench while we lose without you. Either way, you learn your place. Vance held out a stylus. The pen hovered in the air between them, a tiny instrument of immense power. The crowd outside the glass walls was still chanting Elias' name, unaware that their hero had just been handed a leash far tighter than the one he had broken today. Elias looked at the pen, then at Vance, and finally at the schedule on the slate. The path forward was no longer about mechanics or prediction. The game had changed boards, and the new rules were written in ink and authority. He took the stylus. In the next chapter, as the lights dimmed on his forced benching, Elias realized the silence wasn't an end to his game, but the quiet before a dangerous new challenge from the shadows.